I'm just going to go through a technical solution overview of the fleet management, and thereafter a short demo. The fleet overview and what will be the functionality that's in the fleet management for CE is it's always starting off with the vehicles itself. The vehicles are the core and the focus of the total system. So the history of the vehicle, the build, everything that happens to the vehicle will be reported and captured against the vehicle, recorded against the vehicle. And the functionalities that we have is there is a limited geo-tracking on it, so that if you have a third-party tracking company or service provider that gives you that information, it can be recorded against a fleet via interfaces. The same with IoT devices. If you have any IoT devices with recordings and monitorings and readings that you want to record against the fleet or against the vehicle, that can be done as well with the interface. And obviously that will give you analysis as well from the trends and all the time captured data that's been received. Then we also have the vehicle usage that we record against a specific fleet. That your vehicle usage can be the costs, expenses, fuel, kilometers, anything, any mileage against the vehicle will be recorded as well. And then because we're using the vehicles, there will definitely be breakdowns or services that need to happen. That will happen as part of maintenance. So maintenance involves ad hoc repairs, recoveries, and scheduled maintenance. As we are using vehicles and we use the vehicles in the external environment, there will always be incidents. So incidents can need to be recorded as well. Those incidents can be failures and incidents. Both of them needs to be recorded. And then we need drivers for the vehicles. The driver information, performance are recorded against the driver, and it's linked to the specific vehicle that the drivers used. Within the fleet environment, you can have a fleet as, from a functional point of view, you can utilize a fleet for internal purposes or external purposes. When you're using it for internal purposes, you want to be able to book vehicles to specific drivers or for specific usage. And there's a booking facility as well, functionality around it. As I already mentioned, vehicle records are kept so that you have a full record and full history of the specific vehicle. And from that information can go through to financials within an ERP system if you are linked up and integrated with the ERP. Okay. Just to give you a bit of a platform perspective on where the fleet management CE is fitting in. Fleet management is an extension of field services. So it's been extended, and typically what we have in fleet management is a definition of which organizations are available or is utilizing the fleet management. The vehicle register, as we mentioned already, templates to enable quicker job cards being created, warranties being created, specific services being created, and then maintenance itself, where your work orders will be, warranties. If you buy new vehicles, you will always have warranties that you need to manage and monitor. Incidents, as I mentioned previously, the vehicle register itself, pre-start. When you have a fleet of vehicles and you utilize it internally, and your company, for instance, are running shifts, what usually happens, and typically in the construction world, you will need to be able to give the users/drivers the ability to do inspections before they accept the vehicle and utilize the vehicle then for their shift and hand over the vehicle to the next person that's in the next shift. Now that in this environment, we call it pre-start inspections. Usually what happens is, in short, you need to look at the condition of the vehicle. Are you comfortable to accept responsibility for the vehicle for the shift that you're going to utilize it? And that is typically a tick sheet that you tick off and say, what is the quality and the condition of the vehiel? Am I happy? I'm accepting a vehicle for the shift. Operations. If it's internal fleet, you want to be able to book it out to specific users or drivers and record that. That's all happening in operations. Failures we already mentioned. You need to be able to record failures, and from the failures create work orders if applicable and required. And permits and certificates. In some environments you need specific permits, and typically a permit that you would need in day-to-day life is your vehicle license, driver's license. That can also be recorded and managed with regards to expiry dates. And then also mobile, because we're in a world where you're working outside and you may utilize your people and your fleet to service customers offsite. You will need a mobile environment as well to be able to enable the technicians to receive the information offsite with regards to work orders, job cards, inspections, pre-start, and all that. We will get to that later as well. Okay, next, I'm going to show you the software itself. We start off with a dashboard. This is usually where we start off, because this gives you your 360 view on your vehicles, and this can be expanded. This is just as for demo purposes, a limited view on what you can have. Typically, for your vehicles, you want to know which vehicles you have, with core information like a registration number, what is your odometer meter reading on that stage, the model of the vehicle, is the vehicle available, and basically manufacturers, so that you know how many vehicles you have of which manufacturer and models. What you also most probably will want on there from a management perspective is your average fuel consumption per vehicle, so you know what to manage and where you, especially with exception management, to know where to focus. What you also need to know if you have a fleet of vehicles is that you need to renew your fleet, and therefore you will have to know what is the miles traveled by each vehicle, the age of the vehicles, mileage on the vehicles, and this will give you a bit of an overview on that. And obviously you can set up for exceptions as well. Show me the oldest 10 vehicles or the 10 vehicles with the most mileage. The same with if you have incidents. And this is a flexible world where the reports can be customized and configured based on the type of information that's been recorded. Same with fuel consumptions. You can do that with the fuel consumption as well to actively manage the behavior of drivers or to identify vehicles that may be a concern. As I said, the vehicles are the core of the fleet management. So if you look at the vehicle itself, you will have a list of all your vehicles, and I'm just going to open one vehicle, give you a bit of just a summary of what the type of information is that you will have. So typically this is a Volvo truck. It forms part of its fleet. You want to know who's accountable for it. Is there a designated driver for this vehicle? If your map's been implemented and integrated, you will be able to locate it in the map as well. And then from a detail point of view for this vehicle, you want to know, was it a lease? Is it owned? If it's typically this one is a 5-year lease, you want to know when did it start, what's the lease expiry date, and the billing amount around that, frequency of billing. And then from insurance perspective, you want to know, do we have insurance on this vehicle? And what is the value of the insurance on this vehicle? Warranty, from a warranty perspective, because we bought this vehicle new, how long is the warranty? What is the warranty reference number in case I need it? What's the limit on mileage, warranty expiry dates, and does it have a maintenance plan? Then also the service schedule. When is the next schedule? And based on the odometer reading, what can I expect? So typically this vehicle has been updated, has a odometer reading of 85,000. It's a service interval of 20,000, and next service has to happen on 100,000. Then also your registration date, registration number that you need, and if there was any access permits that was required for the utilization of a specific vehicle, it can be recorded as well. Because I'm focusing on a vehicle, I can see the history of the vehicle and typically trips, which trips been done, at what point, what trips are still coming up from a maintenance perspective, which service has been done, and for mileage, which trips and what was the last trip and what is the current mileage of the system, and fuel expenditure against the vehicle as well. Typically, these will be your building blocks for your Power BI reports and views and graphs that you want. Okay, and then, of course, this vehicle has been used in shifts as well, various drivers. I want to have some sort of a pre-start or inspection, and this gives me history of the inspections being done on this vehicle. A typical scenario, specifically if I look at this Volvo, will then happen is beginning of a shift. I need to do a pre-start, so I'll go to a pre-start. And that pre-start, for instance, will then be for the Volvo. And as I mentioned earlier, if you're the driver and you're outside, you will have it on your mobile as well, depending on the setups that's been done for this company. But this is typically a pre-start inspection. So you will have the mileage for the vehicle, the activities that you have to do. In this activities, for instance, typically what happened with this one is it passed everything except tires. So most probably there's either a tire that's flat or tire thread that needs to be inspected and checked, and maybe tires replaced. Because this was a failure on this specific point, it will create in the background a case, an incident, and that incident can then be managed and a work order can be created from that incident. And that happens in the background. So if I look at my incidents, typically these are all incidents that's been created. And if I look at the Volvo itself, start, and it will have additional information, replace tires. This is the incident that's been created. And from that incident, I can then create a work order. In this instance, the work order has already been created. And I can look at the related work order, replace tires. So if I open that work order, see work order number, it's been scheduled, replace the tires. And I can look at my products, 4 tires that need to be replaced, and my service tasks. These are the steps that you have to go through. Check the vehicle, remove the wheel, remove the tire from the wheel, install the new tire on the rim, and then install the complete wheel. Obviously, as you go through this, you can expand on the steps, make it less or more depending on your organization and how much information you need to give your technician. If it's a senior technician, they know what to do. If it's a junior technician, you will expand on this to detail each and every step of the actual job that needs to happen. Okay. You can also, if it's a complex work order that you had, you can also add articles, work orders, manuals, repair manuals, whatever, as part of the information that this technician will need, as well as even the location of the vehicle, if the vehicle is off-site. Okay. Next subject that I want to cover is trips. So you can have multiple trips, and that usually starts off with a request as well. So I can have a request to go to Cape Town, request for a vehicle to go to Cape Town. And there's multiple requests. Okay. I have a booking request to Cape Town and I need a vehicle for that. So this request itself, this request can then be also converted to a trip. And if I go to the trip orders, there's a trip to Cape Town. The vehicle that's been requested, and this trip can then be booked as well, and to manage the trip, the actions of the trip as well. The typical trip mileage and fuel records can then be recorded against this trip. And if there are any incidents or anything else, it can also be recorded against the specific trip. Okay. That is the trips. Then, if you, for instance, in a world where your fleet's been used internally, bus routes, I have, for instance, a taxi or a bus that collects employees and take them to various offices, we can do that as well. And that forms part of your trips. For instance, on your trip orders, you can say, I have a trip A, trip B, depending on how you want to manage your trips and define them. And that can be, for instance, typically if I look at this, a trip that goes around, and I can set up those trips with routes. And the route legs. So that we know where the waypoints is to pick up people. First stop, second stop, multiple stops. And it can be a round trip from HQ or headquarters or offices back to the offices again, with waypoints or stops being defined where people can be picked up and dropped in the afternoon again. For that, we can then do subscriptions, so that your employees subscribe to the routes, and based on company policies, they can be billed for the expenses to pick them up, or it can just be an internal arrangement so that you know which people to pick up where. And the subscriptions can be weekly, daily, monthly. So you can determine how you're going to do this. So typically it will be first stop. I want to be picked up at the first stop, and destination point is HQ. And in the afternoon, I want to go back home, so back to the first stop. So that's a typical way that you will set up your subscriptions from start date and end date, so that the driver knows where to pick up who, and there's no miscommunications. Okay. I'm now going to start the mobile side. Typically, the mobile facility is just the extension of your system. I'm just going to display it on my phone. And there's a field services icon that I've embedded on my phone. And in this role, I'm now the technician that needs to go out and do either the driver, as I'm a system administrator, I can play the role of a driver or the technician. What it does now is it refreshes the data from the system, sync, and what I want to see in the end is my work items, pre-starts, and I want to see my work orders. And as I'm the system administrator, I'm going to see all work orders. And I want to see my pre-starts and my trips. Okay. Okay. So this is my front end of my mobile. It's been set up to see bookings first. You'll see there are 2 bookings for today, replace tires, that we spoke about already for the replacement. And then there's a vehicle breakdown that's also on the list for today. So that shows you the activities for today. If I was technician, then it means that I would have had to handle both of these tasks that came into onto my booking. And then part of the menu structure you have is typically I want to see my pre-start activities. And there's a pre-start for me for a vehicle is allocated to me is for the Volvo, for the truck, with the pre-start activities. And you will see the same pre-start activities that we had on the other side. There's a check tires failure, just to give you an idea that the two environments are synced. And the request can run from that as well. And the next one I want to show is that I can have trip orders linked to my name. So these are the trip orders. And for the trip orders, I can do my feedback directly then onto the trip. And the same with the work orders. There's my Volvo. The work order that we've seen previously, you see in the background here as well. Same one. And I can do my feedback directly on the screen on my mobile, and it will sync back into the system. And it's scheduled on the stage. If I want to do the feedback, I'll go to the actual tasks. See that the task. Same task that we had on this side, and actually just done, either individually or mark them all as complete. And from there, once it's complete, I can then do feedback on the job card itself. Typically 4 tires received and installed. This is the time it took, and I can sign off the job card, and the status and the timestamp of the status changes will go through directly then to the